Welcome to the Future of Dermatology podcast. The next episodes are excerpts from a residency panel that we did last year with doctors Kathy Fields, Greg Morganroth, David Murat, and Jason Hawks. And we asked them various questions about the field of dermatology, their journey, and any advice that they might have. We divided these up into 4 sections so that each one can be focused on a specific topic. The first episode will be on what we call the love and hate parts in the field of dermatology. And we asked all speakers to provide valuable insight into being a dermatologist and what they love and hate about the field. The second part is about their journey and the drive into what led them to where they are now in each of their careers. The third portion is on the financial considerations and negotiating salaries, an important one, especially for early career physicians. The fourth one is on prioritizing and balancing a fulfilling life, which is arguably maybe the most important portion to listen to. So thank you for joining us. So if you're okay with it, we'll go ahead and start with our first question, and it has to do with sort of what drove you, and some already touched upon this, but what drove you to where you are now? Sort of the journey of where you started. Was it just right where you are now, or somewhere completely different? And the setting you've picked, and I guess what the best benefits are. It's kind of a general question, but I think it's just getting to the point of, because I know all of us are doing a very different thing. We're all dermatologists. We're actually doing very different things, and sort of what motivating factors drove us to it. And I'm guessing we're all pretty happy with those choices, but just to kind of speak on that. And if it's okay, we will go with the same order. I'll start with Dr. Fields. And yours is very interesting, right? With all the different things that you do.
Well, I started right out with Tromovich and Stegman. Is there anybody on this table that recognizes those names? Tromovich. Thank God. Good. Thank God. All right, Greg, you're good. For those in the bleachers there who don't know them, they took you from acne and warts to cosmetic dermatology. So without Sam Stegman and Ted Tromovich, who wrote the book back in the early 80s, we wouldn't be doing all the fun things we're doing today. So they really emancipated us and brought us into a whole new world, and with a lot of respect. So I joined them right out of residency. Unfortunately, Sam Stegman had HIV, and he became blind. And so I took his position, and he was angry about it. So he kept trying to come in, but he couldn't see what he was trying to do. So it was a very strange period. And about 3 years later, Ted Tromovich committed suicide. So I joined a group because you want to see how the masters do it. You want to learn from the very best. And so there's limitations to residency. Residency, you're in all kinds of different hospital situations, clinic situations, nursing situations, and it isn't really reality in a private practice world. So unless you rotate through Kaiser, which I did when I was at Stanford, you may not have a clue what that's like. So it's important to go and experience different practices and see what you like and where you are happy and comfortable. So I joined a group. There was a lot of death and suicide, and then we regrouped. And then after that, I went ahead with Katie, and we invented Proactive. Rick Logow was very annoyed with that. He became the new leader of the group. And so I left the practice. At the time, I was pregnant with preterm labor, and I started my own show by myself at 2100 Webster. That's called Courageous. And it was the best thing I ever did, because now I understood practice, I understood overhead, I understood nursing and staffing and the bottom line, and I felt confident enough to be able to do it myself. At the same time, I went off all insurance, which is quite shocking in 1997. So it was cash only. Very also courageous move. None of my associates were doing anything like that, but I kept my rates very, very reasonable. And my patients found me because Rick had blocked me from getting any access to my patients at all. But patients are very smart. And that was before internet. And I have never looked back. It was been wonderful. Vic Narkar, you know his name, I hope. Laser Jack, we'll call him. Soon after joined me, and we were associates. In fact, we had a handshake arrangement for the like 15, 18 years that we were together. Unfortunately, he passed away in 19 of a massive heart attack. And so private practice is what I did, and I loved it. And I got to practice my way, which means I could more or less be a mom. You know, I have had an assistant at home, but I was able to run home. I was close enough to work for the emergencies, and things worked out because you have to manage. You have a lot of responsibility if it's your practice, but with good accounting and a team around you, you can do it easily and really enjoy the process and really enjoy your patients because the schedule is mine. If I want to cut out at 4 o'clock, I do. If I want to stay late and do another surgery, I can. So that sense of freedom is really what I've enjoyed for these 40 years.
Thank you, Kathy and Dr. Morgenroth.
Kathy, I'll just say that you're one of the few fortunate dermatologists that really was able to spend time with some of the true luminaries of our specialty. I just, there's just, I'm thinking today of who we look up to and who sort of sets standards for us, and they're great, but they're just not the Tromovich and Stegman and Logau and Narukars of our generation. So you should be very, very proud of your history. Anyway, I didn't have a chance to talk about my background. I went to Michigan for undergrad med school, did my internship at Penn, did my residency at Yale, did my fellowship with a guy named Glenn Goldstein, who I was his first fellow. And so he didn't really know what to do with me. He was doing about 4 Mohs in the morning, which was sort of what was happening back then in the early 90s. And I kept like saying, well, we should be doing more. And because there was so much free time, I was allowed to spend my afternoons with vascular surgeons, plastic surgeons, facial plastic surgeons, ophthalmic plastic surgeons, doing surgeries with them. So I was one of the first dermatologists to really have a true multidisciplinary training in dermatologic surgery. After that training, and after I had helped my fellowship director get up to 10 cases in a day, I decided that I was interviewed for a number of academic positions, but didn't feel it was a right fit for me personality-wise. And so I decided to go into private practice. And, something that I always encourage my fellows, I train up to 2 fellows a year in derm surgery. My current fellows are, one was from UCSF grad, the other one's a Northwestern grad last year. I always encourage people to think about all the hard work you've done to get into medical school, to get into your internship, to get into your dermatology residency. If you've done a fellowship, you know how much hard work there's been. That one should always try to use those skills and continue that fight to be the best you can be and to create the best opportunity for yourself. And for me, that was private practice. I could have gone back to Detroit, where I'm from, where my parents said, boy, there's a 6-week wait list here for Mohs surgery. But I thought I enjoyed the weather and I like to ski and windsurf, and San Francisco is one of the few places where you can do that on the same weekend. So I came to San Francisco without a job and ended up taking a locums position at Sunnyvale Clinic, which is now Palo Alto Medical Foundation. And I spent 5 months doing general dermatology. Really, they let me do 1 or 2 Mohs cases a month. And I spent 5 months doing that because I wanted to see if I liked the area. So I sacrificed the first, very beginning part of my career to not do what I was trained to do, and ended up getting a few job offers. And I took one in Mountain View, and I still am in the same office that I joined back in 1995. So as I mentioned, I became a partner. I was always more surgically oriented than the average dermatologist in the area. And I was very involved in teaching at the Mohs meetings and ASDS. In fact, there were times where I was giving 7 or 10 lectures in a single meeting. And as time evolved in private practice, which I've been very happy in, I noticed there was a change, and Kathy may understand this as well, that dermatologists became much more surgically oriented, that dermatologists were learning to do Mohs surgery on their own, that dermatologists who were not previously surgery oriented were hiring their own Mohs surgeons. The interactions in the hospitals, the social events, the meetings, the golf tournaments, the parties started to go away. There was a expansion of Kaiser, expansion of the HMOs. UCSF and Stanford were expanding. And so they put pressure on me as a referral Mohs surgeon in terms of what am I going to do as I see the future of referral dermatology in this area fading away. So out of the blue, one day, a dermatology group of 6 female dermatologists approached me and said, we'd like you to buy our practice. We like, interacting with you and surgical referrals, and it's become harder to run a practice. And we think that you sort of know what you're doing. And we'd like to join you. And I said, sounds like a great idea conceptually, but like, here I am, a referral doctor. If I merge with you, my referring dermatologist won't send me cases anymore. And Dr. Colby responded, well, what percentage of your referrals do we represent? And I sort of told her, and she said, well, if you don't buy us, we're either going to hire our own Mohs surgeon or we will sell to a Mohs surgeon. So I said, well, okay, now you have my attention. Let me get back to you. So I met at my house with my outside sort of consultant who now sold her business and joined CSI in about 2015, and our outside billing consultant. And I said, I've been approached by a group of dermatologists to buy them. They would work for me. And they said, well, we don't recommend you do that. It's very hard, especially in California, to buy practices, employ doctors, and actually make, a profit, make it worth their while. And I said, well, my goal isn't to make money on the doctors. My goal is to treat the doctors really well, but to, retain the Mohs referrals and get the other cosmetic surgery referrals they might not have sent me before because they were afraid of losing their patients to me for Botox and other things. And so they said, well, no one's really ever done that before. This is back in 2007. And so I said, well, that's what I like to do. If you don't have any objections, let's just do that. And so that merger occurred, which was a pretty big deal because dermatologists merging practices really were not happening at that time, certainly not in Silicon Valley. And then, as I mentioned, purely by word of mouth, dozens of other practices joined me. And so the entire network around the Bay Area, which seems like I strategically planned an office in each location, actually really came about because in every city there was someone that wanted to join me and came to me. And so as the practice became larger, I began to realize, well, we could add plastic surgery to do the things that I don't do. We could add dermatopathology. And I was always focused on the highest quality and highest caliber people. And then what happens with any larger business is that as you grow, you get better at compliance, you get better at marketing, you get better at all these things. But at the same time, you sort of have to grow a little bit more. So that's sort of been the story of the practice, that it's really run just like it was run in 2007. It's just a bigger version. And I love the practicing medicine. I think I'm one of the only, owners or executives in a large dermatology practice that has not completely sold out to private equity, that still works full time and takes care of patients. All of my peers they don't even work, or they're retired, who sold their big practices, or they just work a half day a month. So I love the business of medicine. I love, first and foremost, being a doctor and taking care of my patients and making a difference in their lives. And I like being involved in the marketing and the business development, all the things that are exciting about being a doctor. And so I'm very happy with where I've been. And like I said, I've just talked to so many people and looked at so many practices, some of which I purchased, some of which I didn't. People have joined me from Kaiser, from Sutter, from Stanford, from recently UC Davis. Paul Hosley was a great guy. So, I mean, I've really had a little insight. I've never worked at Kaiser nor at Sutter, except before Sutter was really a big entity. I see whatever other people have in their opportunities, and they're all great, by the way. Like, you can't go wrong with any of these options. It really becomes a personality fit. And I think really what you want, how you view yourself 5 or 10 years from now. And again, because I think that each of these opportunities presents a different pathway. In the end, you'll have enough money, you'll have a happy life, Your children will be fine. You get to travel, have a home, maybe a second home if you want. None of these options are going to limit your ability to be a success. So it really comes down to personality and how you view yourself.
I mean, I actually like to echo that particular point. We're dermatologists, and we're lucky to be so. And our ability to generate an income, no matter where you go or what you do, is going to be there. So, as far as the financial part, that really is almost set no matter where you go. I think another point that was well taken is you do have to kind of see what fits you the best. I mean, I joined Kaiser because it's a large group practice, and realistically, I was almost 40 years old when I joined Kaiser, simply because the years of payback I had to do for the military. And I wanted something where, again, I could come in, see my patients, and then go home. Now, that sounds really easy. It's not as easy as it sounds, but in essence, that's what I kind of was able to do. At the time, I already had 2 daughters, and my wife was pregnant with a 3rd daughter. So other than my dog, there's no other boys in this household. So, but I wanted to be able to spend time with them. That was kind of one of the important points with me, is I wanted family time. And I knew at 40, if I was going to go start a business and run a business, do a practice, or, go out in a small group or solo, it was going to be a little bit difficult for me. And after looking it over, all of the particular benefits from different groups and different options that I had, Kaiser was kind of going to be my best fit given my situation. Honestly, I mean, again, it sounds like everyone's very happy with the decisions that they've made, and that's terrific. And I'm happy with the decision that I made. I'm going to be 60, and I'm now retiring. And the beauty is, I can do it because of the benefits that Kaiser has, especially in retirement. You may not make as much as other people in private practice or even some other groups to start with, but if you can get to the finish line, for sure, you're going to be taken care of. When I look at the package that they offer, especially in retirement, it's fabulous, and that's part of the reasons I did join Kaiser. Another point I want to make too is you do have to find something that fits you. We're dermatologists; we can kind of do this anywhere, and really, the group of people that you're with is really going to determine sort of your day-to-day happiness. In South San Francisco, I mean, I can't speak for every facility everywhere in Kaiser, but in South San Francisco, we got an exceptional group of dermatologists. We've got people from, Stanford and Henry Ford and a few other places, and they're great people to work with. But they're not just great dermatologists. They're also kind of an extended family for me. And, one of the things is since I was chief, I was able to hire the individuals that are currently at our practice. And I'm, again, not just great dermatologists, but great people. We go out to lunch together. We go on vacations together. So, as a group, we have that ability to really sort of have a extended family. And again, that makes the practice of dermatology even better, because not only, are you sort of satisfied as far as your work experience goes, taking care of the patients and doing all that stuff, but the people you're working with are a real joy to be around. And that was an important factor for me too. I don't, one of the worst things I could think of is getting up every day, going to work and looking at these people and going, my God, I can't stand any of them. It would just be really tough to sort of practice, my skills in a situation where the people I was working with, you just don't get along with. And I've been exceptionally lucky that I've been able to get along with them. So, realistically, that was one of the other big reasons. I mean, not only that I joined Kaiser, but I stayed with Kaiser, is I really had a great situation that I was in. And even now, again, retiring, it's really hard to leave all of that. And one of the hard things to leave is knowing that, I won't be seeing these individuals on a daily basis. So, again, when you look for a practice, the compensation will be there. The benefits will typically be there. All of that stuff is available. Being in dermatology, I mean, I literally say, thank God every day I'm a dermatologist. But, realistically, do pick a situation that's going to work for you. If you're one of those people that says, hey, look, I need to do this on my own. I want to do it my way. If you want to be the Frank Sinatra of dermatology, excellent, then go do that. If you're kind of the person like me that says, hey, look, I'm probably not as business savvy as a lot of other people. I don't really want to run the business. I just want to do the patient thing. Kaiser worked for me. And again, the other thing that I really enjoyed in my career is I got to do different things. So I get to do recruiting. I'm a chief. I get to be on different committees. I'm mostly medical surgical derm. I don't really do very much in cosmetics. We have people in our department who do. That's just not my thing. So the beauty is I get to do, as much medical surgical derm as I want. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it because, having that, now, again, I don't think it's going to be as flexible as some other people's situations, but, over time, it's flexible enough that I really don't feel like I haven't been able to grow into my career. So again, just the points, pick a place that's going to work for you, pick a situation that's going to work for you, because again, the odds on favorite is you're going to be doing it for a long time. And I always tell people, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you really want to get into a situation that's going to be sort of optimal for you. And of course, today I'm hoping that choice would be Kaiser. But again, there's a lot of other situations out there. Do what's right for you, because again, you're going to be doing it for a long time.
Thank you. Dr. Hawks?
Yeah, so I'll take a slightly different angle on this. So I think one, I'll just say that, it's really the flavor that resonates with you, that the practice types that we're talking about are so different, right? So, developing a skincare product has a very specific activity associated, running a practice or training Mohs fellows or being in a system like Kaiser Sutter. They all have just pros and cons. And I think to trainees, I always just explain that you're going to get a presentation of the best parts of all of these models. And you really need that balance, because for every happy dermatologist in these different groups, there's somebody that's been in that system that wasn't happy. And that's true for the university systems. Like, we're no exception to that. And I think the point is that it doesn't make those systems right or wrong, but it means that there may have been a mismatch between values between that individual and that practice environment. And so I think it's really important to have some really honest feedback, from individuals that have been in, different groups or different scenarios. I've had a lot of colleagues, both from, out here in the UC system, but also in the East Coast where I was, back at Mount Sinai, that have, gone to different practice types and struggled and came back to academia. I've had others that left academia that, just found their, happiness in the Kaiser system. Like, I really don't think we're talking about right versus wrong as opposed to fit. And I think that's a really, important conversation to have. I think coming at the academic side, why did I take that path? So talking about sort of my fit, I struggled with wanting to manage people or practice. That was something I didn't necessarily enjoy. Was something also I don't think we get a lot of, training and education about, throughout both residency and medical school. We never learn business, right? And I think that's an underside that, we really need to think about. Medicine is business, and I think we're not preparing trainees very well to go into the practice of medicine. And I think that's a gap in education. But that's kind of part of the reasons that I sort of stayed in the academic space, is that I wanted to be a part of those conversations where we were taking on education gaps, research gaps. I enjoyed the mentorship side. I liked working with the students and the residents, and it's different at an academic center. Again, I don't think the academic centers have any monopoly over any of these things, because you can find those in the community, but it is a place where they're all kind of together, right? You have DermPath, you've got patch testing, you've got Mohs, they're all kind of right there. And you can sort of simulate that to some degree in a large practice setting, but I think you can't simulate that educational space, from the basic scientists and the benchtop being next to the clinicians, and some of the unique collaborations that happen. And being at Rockefeller University was a huge impact for me. I mean, there's a place that has more Nobel Prizes in medicine than any other institution, and the innovation and the creativity and the discovery there was way beyond anything that I think you can really capture in a community because of the integration of a system that brings these people that would have no business being near each other. So for me, that was really an exciting interface between the scientists and the epidemiologists and the clinicians. For me, there are still, big mentors in medical dermatology that we still have these giants that have been great and have sort of channeled and nurtured me through my career. And that's been positive. There've been a lot of, takeaways from that, I've enjoyed the publications. I've enjoyed, writing. I've enjoyed the grants. We helped develop new technologies that, are right now going through the SBIR funding, with these advances for skin technology. So these have been intellectually curious activities that I've enjoyed that I didn't necessarily feel that I would get in a community or a more of a, practice group setting. But again, I think there are some drawbacks. I'm sure we can kind of get to that. But I think just to, rebalance that, we do know people that are unhappy in certain systems. And I think that's okay, because every time you end up in a system or practice setting, you learn a little bit about your values. And I think part of this experience is to refine out what your values are so that you can present those to the person you're working with in a way that they can say, I understand your values. We can sort of reinforce those and we can support those. And I think it's important to have good mentorship along the way, as a resident, to start to tease out what are those things that are going to make you happy. If you're a proceduralist and you just think and dream surgical dermatology, then you should definitely do that. If you're thinking about the next skincare line and that makes you happy, then we need those people. It's important for our patients. If you really just want to do general dermatology 5 days a week or 2 days a week, then that's okay too. So I think, I think Greg mentioned it, like, you've got to find the thing to take care of yourself and just recognize that each of these practices offer something a little bit different. You're going to thrive when you're doing something that you enjoy. If you're trying to do something you don't enjoy, you're not going to thrive. And so try to find that thing through training, and also try to find people that are doing something that you think you might want to do, and spend time with that person and really understand. And that's what helped me, because I had great mentors along the way. Jerry Kruger, who really sort of put psoriasis on the map as an immune disease, really took me under his wing and, gave me real good advice, good insights. He's remained a long-term friend. And I think we need to find those people. They don't have to be at your institution, but you need those people that'll have those difficult conversations, help you try to tease out a little bit of, what is it that you are ultimately going to find the greatest satisfaction in? And then what is the practice setting that's going to allow that to nurture the most? So I'll stop there.
Thank you again for joining us on the Future of Dermatology podcast. Residency mentorship is always a high priority of ours, and we always look forward to our annual residency panel. And a huge thanks to all the faculty members who always take part of this and impart their wisdom. Thank you again.